but the football perhaps not the most breathtaking on earth. I've seen certainly better football. Now we are joined by Brent Graham. He's from Good for the Game, and we're here to talk about where the money is. Graham, thanks very much for coming through. Where is the money going? Now, we know some of the big guns haven't played yet, but we do know some of the other better teams that have a chance have played. Has there been any change in the betting odds after these few games that we've seen?
Godfrey, certainly been plenty of betting movement. You've got the likes of England, for example, who looked disappointing in their match against the USA. They've drifted out from 6-1 to 8-1. That in turn has seen the likes of Spain shorten without even kicking a ball in this World Cup. You can get 4-1 on Spain now. They're just ahead of Brazil, who are fairly stable at 4.5-1. The big movers, though, over the last 24 hours have been Germany, because they, of course, disposed of Australia in clinical fashion, 4-0. And you can still get, as I speak now, 10-1 about Germany, and that's a very, very big price, and it won't last.
Which I don't understand, because we knew Germany was going to beat Australia. We know the Socceroos are not exactly the best footballing nation on earth. So why have the odds shortened after that 4-0 thumping where there was a dismissal?
I think it was the manner in which Germany disposed of the Socceroos. You know, if we have to have a look at the 7 games that preceded the Germany game, very few of the teams looked impressive. Argentina beat Nigeria 1-0, but there were patches where they looked a little bit shaky. Germany were the first team to put in a full 80-minute performance. They looked very good, lots of running off the ball. It was 4-0. It could have been 8-0, I can tell you. They missed a lot of chances. And if you think about it another way, what are Germany doing at 10-1 while England are 8-1? It's quite strange that.
That's a question that I'm going to come to you with later, but I was just wondering about Germany as well as Argentina, because if you look at the game Argentina against Nigeria, for instance, Lionel Messi on his own created probably 5 or 6 chances for his teammates, but you had an outstanding goalkeeper who pulled virtually everything that he could and kept that score down. So do the bookies recognize that, and does the money follow that kind of trend?
Well, there was a lot of money prior to the tournament for Argentina. They sort of started at around the 7-1 mark. I can tell you their price has virtually not moved, because the bookmakers, while they recognize the fact that the Nigerian goalkeeper had an absolute blinder, there were patches about that Argentinian performance that weren't that great. You know, aside from Messi, there was no one else who really impressed, and they've kind of looked at that and they've said, right, we've got Argentina about right here.
Let's talk about England, and let's talk about that horrible fumble and the fact that they are likely to keep that goalkeeper on, even with his confidence shot to nerves because of that mistake. Do England justify the odds that are on them, particularly given the fact that we know they have crumbled the previous World Cups, and secondly, we do know also, of course, that a lot of the betting money that comes through England?
Well, I think you've touched on it right at the end there, the betting money. I mean, England, the World Cup in England is absolutely massive. A lot of the odds basically emanate from the United Kingdom, and I can see why the bookies are not that keen to stick England out at sort of 10 and 12-1, which personally I think is where their price should be after that first performance. I can tell you the keeper as well, they've got betting on whether he'll start the next game for England, and you're quite right, he's odds-on favourite to start the next game despite that fumble.
Indeed, David James will be kicking his heels. Let's move on to Brazil. Brazil stable at 9-2. Now we do know, of course, they've got the pedigree, they've done it before, they can do it again, they've got the players, but why are they playing second fiddle to Spain?
It's a good question. You know, people have seen Spain's build-up. Spain have got the likes of Torres there, who, by the way, might miss the first game through injury. And everyone's climbed onto the Spain bandwagon. But a lot of punters have taken a look at this and said, Spain are not hardened winners like Brazil are. Brazil have won 5 World Cups.
True.
It is interesting to see the difference in the betting. Spain do have a fairly comfortable group to get through. They should top their group with ease. But let's not forget that in the second round, they're going to meet either the Ivory Coast, Portugal, or Brazil, depending, you know, who's the runner-up of Group G.
Yeah, I've heard people talking about Spain beating Brazil. I have my doubts there. But my favorite for the tournament hasn't played yet. It's playing tonight, the Netherlands.
Yes.
What's the money on the Netherlands?
In fact, the Netherlands, I think, are playing within about 45 minutes of this interview completing. Netherlands have been big money horses, if I can put it that way, over the last few weeks. There was 15-1 the Netherlands available 3-4 weeks ago, shortened into 12-1. I can tell you now that although they haven't kicked a ball, they've shortened into single figures. 8-9-1 is the best you're going to get Netherlands ahead of their game against Denmark. If they come out and beat Denmark convincingly, expect that to be clipped to about 7-1.
There's the champions. But let's talk about Africa. Now, we saw Ghana doing Africa a lot of good. That 1-0 victory over Slovenia were definitely, I think, celebrated across the breadth and length of the continent. Who is the money on Africa?
Well, that's very interesting, because bookmakers have largely had Ivory Coast as the favourites, perhaps not taking into account the fact that they are in such a tough group.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ghana now looking strong. The fact that they've got a win under the belt is very, very positive. Nigeria, despite losing to Argentina, showed enough in that game to suggest that they can still progress from Group B as well.
I'm not hearing Bafana Bafana.
Bafana, well, it's all going to come down to the Uruguay game as far as I'm concerned. Bafana, interestingly enough, very unchanged in the betting. Had we not conceded against Mexico, if we'd picked up the 3 points, you would have seen big shifts in the Bafana betting, especially in the group betting and the to qualify markets. You wouldn't have seen a massive shift in their outright price, but they would still be trading around about 5-6 to 1 in the top African team market.
Which is a little crazy because in my book, I had Bafana losing the first game to Mexico. So the fact that they got a point for me is a big bonus. And then you've got Uruguay, I've got a victory there. What do you have?
Well, it's very interesting. My partner who wrote the preview on Good for the Game has said exactly the same thing. He's quite puzzled by the betting. He says Bafana are 22 to 10 to beat Uruguay in the 90 minutes. Similar price to how they opened up against Mexico when the betting opened, although by the time the game started, Bafana had been backed right into virtual joint favourite. And he's saying there's not such a big difference between the sides. He reckons Bafana can do it. On that basis, the sort of bet that will interest you is 17 to 10 with MBet, I think it is, that Bafana can qualify. They don't have to win their group, just to qualify. That's 17 to 10, 1.7 to 1.
What does that say about the game against France?
Well, the game against France, based on rankings and that, a lot the bookmakers are effectively putting that down as a likely loss for us. From what I've seen of France, and I did think they had the better of Uruguay the other night, I don't think it's a definite loss. I think if we can get something out of the Uruguay game, perhaps 3 points, or hopefully 3 points, we can certainly get a point against France to book our trip through.
Absolutely. So the money on South Africa progressing beyond the first round, has that changed since the betting began?
It has changed since the betting began. There was 5 to 2 or 2.5 to 1 available when the betting began. Before the tournament began, that was already into 18 to 10 or 1.8 to 1. It's only come in very, very slightly on the basis of that draw with Mexico. There was a general sentiment that we might get something out of the game.
And finally, the money aside, where's your heart?
My heart is with Bafana, no doubt about that, and I am looking to back them in markets such as the 2 Progress market. My initial money went down on Argentina, but I'd have to say if you can still get 10 to 1 on Germany, that's a mighty good price.